Lindiwe, 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 Lindiwe. In companion expedition, I'ma get sacked tonight. In companion expedition, I'ma get sacked tonight. Welcome back, y'all. What's up, everyone? It's Elio, and again we are playing the Altered Trading Card game. This time, I believe I'm going to be playing Lindiwe. The deck's core insight that I'm playing today is that Lindiwe is able to play two very strong spells in Boom and Gift of Self. And with Lady of the Lake, we can get multiple casts of those spells using her support ability. I wanted to see if I can eke out advantage by getting multiple recurring copies of Gift of Self in Boom. Small Step is another great spell that turns into the rare version when Lady has something to say about it. For the sacrifice spells, we need fodder, besides just Maw. Moonlight Jellyfish, Ortis Overseer, and Chrysalis all work great for this. Moonlight Jellyfish itself feels like the best card in the deck, and I love it. Other characters serve dual purpose, but can also be great sacrifice fodder. Tooth Fairy, the most expensive of these, though its body is so meaningless that often it's used as a sack target once its lane is contested. To finish off our characters, we have Baba Yaga and Pamela. Baba is a mainstay in any Sigismar deck, though interestingly, I find myself manning her here in this deck more than any other deck. Pamela is there for stats. In non-green lanes, it's a great 3-2, and sometimes you just need to push or defend. Oh, and finally, one copy of the Kraken. If the opponent is unprepared, this can be a 4-lane swing over 2 turns. But sometimes it's just a 7-mana sleep target, so break in case of emergency. Outside of our best lady spells, we have a few more spells in the form of removal. Off You Go is a staple, but Blizzard can help us get back to even in a lane, and that is especially true when we can stall with Baba's Isba. Isba lets us do our best Akesha impersonation, and sometimes we want to stall, and sometimes we want to sack, and Isba lets us do both. Finally, for our uniques, I was looking at Lady of the Lake, and I went to the marketplace, and I got 3 copies of Lady. 2 can put pressure on my opponent's resources with their fleeting ability, which works great with Boom doing the same, attacking their resources, and the third just has good stats. The marketplace being open now makes it easy to do this sort of thing, especially if you go after something that people don't value as highly as you do. With these coming in at an average of $9, it's cool stuff. That's it. That's the deck. Let's jump into some games. Okay, up against Afanas. Here, I definitely want to keep the Jellyfish. I think it's best card in the deck. And with that, we'll keep some sacrifice spell. Gift of Self in particular is really good turn 1 when we also have the first player token, as we can go Jellyfish left, Maw right, and then depending on where they play a character, we can sack either the Jellyfish or the Maw to draw cards and just trade lanes with them. And then that leaves, honestly, any of these are viable choices to keep as the third card. I do want to try Boom against Afanas. Sometimes you can put them in awkward positions because they expect to have many turns with the card, like having a Mage Dancer and Helping Hand. And you can get rid of all of those copies of it by booming the first time they play it from hand. It's a little aggressive to keep it in the first hand, and maybe one of these other options is the smarter choice. But you know, in these early games, I'm trying to test the concepts, and so I'll keep the Boom over the Overseer or the Off You Go. Okay, we open up with Jelly on left, and as said, we'll kind of respond to what they do. They match us with the Baba, so we will Maw and Gift of Self to trade 1 for 1 and draw them cards. Now, we do have a second Boom here, and it may be aggressive keeping both, and I should probably put one back. Though this turn, you know, I would love to do like a Jellyfish Boom play on like a Mage Dancer. Alternatively, I could do Chrysalis, maybe Tooth Fairy. I don't know, I think I should put the Boom back to say that 2 of these might be too many, but I also like the possibility of double booming, and so depending on what they play, I may want to be doing that. So I'll put the Disciple back for now, and I can always put back one of the booms next turn, which are far less replaceable. And so, unlikely that I'm not going to be able to have another card that replaces the Disciple, but there really are only these 3 copies of Boom. Here, I'm not going to be able to win versus this Yaga. I don't want to boom against this Yaga, and so I'm just going to go left and try to be a little bit more pressuring of saying, hey, you can take 1 lane, but it's going to be tough for you to take 2. A little harder, not super tough with only 1 mountain. But they don't even go for it. They just Tooth Fairy or Jellyfish, which makes us a little sad, but while they're up a lane, they're not going blistering fast for Afanas, and we're going to have power in this hero zone. Okay, now here I don't need the additional boom, so I'll get rid of this boom. And because I have the boom, I can potentially Chrysalis plus boom plus Moss, so I'll open up with the Chrysalis to dodge an additional Tooth Fairy. This is a boost gaining Lady of the Lake rather than a fleeting Lady of the Lake. And this is like the prime target for boom. It's exactly what I want to get rid of. I think it's one of their more powerful things outside of uniques. And so this will let me Maw, sacrifice the Chrysalis, and get rid of this Mage Dancer. We're definitely winning the right lane now, and they'll have to work to win this left lane. And with them playing the Tooth Fairy, we'll see if they, Magical Training will just tie up this lane, which we even out on lanes again. And yeah, I'm satisfied so far. Now, we are still behind in the left lane, so this Overseer is not bad. Now, they did feel forced to kind of just tie us in that lane last turn. They didn't have Mage Dancer follow-up, so I want to keep this off you go to continue to pressure their characters. Tooth Fairy also put some nice pressure on them. Lady of the Lake will let us double up on something later, plus it's just great stats for the card. So I'm actually going to get rid of the Chrysalis, especially since it's probably best with a sack target, and I don't have one of those right now. They do play an additional Mage Dancer. I'd love to, if possible, save this off you go for when it's fleeting, but we'll see how this turn develops. I, for now, kind of want to keep them lower on resources. So I'll Tooth Fairy on the right, getting rid of the Mage Dancer. And we'll see if we can just trade lanes here again. Now, I can basically Lady of the Lake on one of these sides. Right says, hey, we're going to trade 1 for 1. Left says, hey, I'm going to off you go you. And if you don't off you go me, I'll 2-0 you. But Overseer kind of does that same thing. I can play it in the left lane, and it's not vulnerable to off you go itself. And so if I go Overseer, they could off you go the Tooth Fairy, but then I just replay the Tooth Fairy, and that's fine. We trade 1 for 1. So I'll play Overseer left. Depending on what they do, I'll decide if I want to off you go this. And they pass. With that, I can still get rid of this while it's fleeting with from reserve, and I prevent a card draw by off you going this now, plus get a lane advance and a lane block. So that seems pretty great value. I'll off you go this, and then at end of turn I can discard this Tooth Fairy as like the least effective card available to me right now. Man, I like all these cards, and everything costs 2. I don't get myself any additional cast this turn by putting something back, so I'm actually just gonna not mana this turn. We're only a few lanes away, so maybe this will be okay. Technically, I can do 3 casts with the 2 ladies and the Overseer, but the Overseer from reserve right now isn't getting us like an additional token, so it's likely that I just want to use the support ability. So I'm happy just opening up with Isba to stall a little bit, draw another card, and see what's going on. See what they hit with the Fairy. They do hit the Overseer, so we won't get our free token. Okay, so I'm going to open up with the boost Lady of the Lake on the right. That puts us ahead 3 water on him, making it very likely that we're advancing here. And now I can stall with the Maw and hope to get rid of this Mage Dancer permanently with a fleeting Lady of the Lake. This will also put us 2 lanes away, and we can potentially, with 2 ladies in our reserve, double small step on 2 subsequent turns, as long as they don't have their 3rd Tooth Fairy. So that feels pretty good. And if that doesn't work out, they have to somehow interrupt our small step giant leap, and they're going to be lower on resources to do that and advance cards because this Mage Dance is now gone. I will get rid of something in mana here so that I can afford to Maw stall, just making it a little bit less likely that they know exactly what I'm doing. And also give me more mana for doing things next turn. So I'll get rid of the Chrysalis, because I'm not casting it this turn. Possible that should have been the Tooth Fairy, because if I'm not going to win with Small Step, the Chrysalis next turn will basically represent 4 power by sacking it immediately with the Maw, and that's actually pretty good. So since I'm at the end game, I probably should have kept that Chrysalis. Getting rid of something may be good with Tooth Fairy, but it also may be a total, doesn't matter kind of play. So good thing to keep in mind. But as said before, we're just going to stall a turn with the Isba. They Rhyme Frost. Luckily, they can't exhaust 2 of our things unless they had a unique. So we'll use the other support ability to play Small Step and send it to our reserve rather than sending it to the discard pile. They're digging for that 3rd Tooth Fairy, and they do not find it. Okay, that should be game. Yep, they scoop. GG. Okay, game against Sigismar. I don't love Off You Go against Sigismar. I feel like a lot of things I'm like trading evenly or trading down. Just the tokens, it doesn't feel great. So I'm happy to put these back. I'm definitely keeping 1 Pamela because there's 2 of them, and just by the math of it. Love to keep Gift of Self to draw some fuel up. And I would rather have something that has even power to fight against tokens rather than 2 Pamelas. So setting back off Pam for sure. Now, it is an awkward hand no matter what, and I don't really have any other options. I don't want to play Ortus Overseer here and face a real risk of him still just playing cards out and taking both lanes and me wasting an Overseer. I could try to trade a lane with Pamela, but that doesn't feel great either. So I'm actually just going to, look, you can take these lanes. I'm going to Maw draw this turn. And maybe I hit like a Studious Disciple or a Jellyfish that does happen to fight against something like a Frog Prince. But no, it's a Yaga Baba. And he takes 2 lanes. Our opponent takes 2 lanes, sorry. And we continue on. This does turn on our Overseer, though, and make it quite a bit better. I found that people in Sigismar are cutting sticky notes more and more, and especially happy to mana them, especially against Lindiwe. So I'm going to try to keep this Kraken, see if I can't take advantage of it, and I'll put back a Disciple. It often goes back, but sometimes it's nice to have a 1-mana play besides Jellyfish, so earns its spot in the deck. But we will... I don't think I'm going to be playing 2 things this turn, and I'd rather force them to show what they want to do, especially since a lot of people aren't expecting Pamela right now, especially out of Lindiwe. So I'll Isba first, draw a card, do a little bit of stalling. And this is not what I'd love to see because I am going to beat him in this lane and he's going to get the Sabotage off. But yeah, I'll play the Pamela and trade lanes with him this turn, but he gets the Sabotage, which is... I love Monolith Legate. I always wish that I am the Legate player. It's a cool card. Okay, now here I have a ton of cards. A lot of them are really good at fighting lanes and stuff. I definitely want to keep this Jellyfish with the Isba and everything. I'm pretty sure I want to keep the Chrysalis. Still like this Kraken plan. Overseer is great, and I'd love to Sabotage this Legate in particular because I hate facing off against it. And so I think I'm going to drop the Baba Yaga. That also kind of lets us do a Jellyfish 2-drop play this turn, and then maybe we Isba like a Tooth Fairy in order to get the power on the Maw. I mean, probably still makes sense to is with the jellyfish. I don't know why I say that, but yeah, I'm gonna put back the Baba Yaga, and I'll open with Tooth Fairy to stop this Legate, and I'll do it on the non-Maw lane. So I'll do it in the hero lane. That'll also tie up the Ortis Recruit. Now he's fighting over water. I can Chrysalis left to tie that up, and then put the onus on them. Alternatively, I could Overseer and take the advantage. However, if I'm planning to back this turn, if I sack Overseer token, I'd still be tied. Doesn't change much. I think the right thing to do is play the Overseer here, but I do end up playing the Chrysalis. They play Frog Prince right, which now I can basically, like, I'll be able to sack this Chrysalis, still tie here, and I have the option of either going Jellyfish right to block on water, or I could Jellyfish left to advance, and we both advance. And, you know, with the Kraken plan, maybe I should be trying to take a lane while I can, but the other thing is I don't want to get him in like Grand Endeavor territory where I'm just like fighting up an uphill battle, right? So I'm going to block rather than advance after I do this Chrysalis sack play. To be clear there, by the way, I was advancing on Mountain no matter what, but it was a question of whether or not this water from the jellyfish would block his Frog Prince or advance us on the left. Now, if we wanted to like double Kraken win, if that's something that's going to be possible, we'll need to win at least one more lane, which is extremely doable. He has a lot of resources. I don't think these are like particularly special that I need to be trying to Tooth Fairy them. So I'm going to put back the Tooth Fairy and be trying to use my Overseers on the left now. But I'll start with the Jellyfish since I can sack it to draw, see what he's doing, do some Isba gameplay. The Blizzard could be good. Could be good. The Ortis Trooper on the right, we're not beating that, but we can win on the left with two Overseers. Or not two Overseers, sorry, just a Tooth Fairy and an Overseer will do that because it'll let me win on Mountain and tie him on Water, leaving another Overseer in hand still, which is nice. We trade 1 for 1. I'm now a Kraken away, or double Kraken away, sorry. That being said, I don't love casting Kraken on. If I'm trying to double Kraken, I don't want to open up with that on my turn and then go into their turn where they have 5 cards in hand and, you know, they could play Legate in response to my Kraken. They could open up with an Ortis Spy. There's a lot of things that make that vulnerable. If I'm going to try to double Kraken, I'd rather do it starting on their turn, coming back to where I'm first, and I can open up with Kraken from reserve. Here I'll get rid of the Isba, though. I don't need to, and this Blizzard still may be good. I'll open up with the Overseer on the left to dodge said sabotage effects. We know that this is going to be one of the turns that it's good. This also may be the turn that we play the second Overseer here. Plays a unique Foundry Engineer that could potentially be discounting a Grand Endeavor or a Ortis Bastion, and we'll be putting 3 power on the board, so... And that is bigger with charge, so some things to look out for here. But I'll go ahead and Chrysalis right, because that'll start to advance if I Maw plus sack it, which is good. But I am a little wary of charge effects. Teamwork Training takes out an Ortis Overseer, that's fine. I can go and just respond with my own Overseer. There's that Maw that would have made the Kraken feel a lot worse. But we're actually in a great spot. Like, we're going to advance on water here, and when we make this Maw and sack this Chrysalis, we're advancing on the right too. And so now we're actually pressuring a win next turn with single Kraken. If they have sticky notes, we get to run it back the next turn with another Kraken. And they only have 1 card in hand. And what are the chances that what they're keeping is sticky notes versus us? Very tough for Sigismar to be putting up 8 water, especially not knowing that the Kraken is coming, and to do that 2 turns in a row. I will get rid of the Boom rather than the Blizzard, though, especially with the Isba, I think, making the Blizzard a lot better. And if I don't like Off You Go, I certainly don't like boom, at least not in this position where the landmarks don't matter as much. If it was earlier in the game, it might matter, but like I'm not trying to boom this here. I'm trying to Kraken. So I just make the Maw, I make the Kraken, hope that the last card he kept isn't Sticky Notes, which it shouldn't be. It doesn't really make sense given everything that we've seen to be keeping that unless he had 2 Sticky Notes, right? Like if he has a 2-drop character or something, like that's what you want to be keeping in this position. Otherwise, you won't be able to fight off against everything else that you've seen from the deck. That puts us in a position where he's kind of screwed. Even with the Ortis Bastion and this making 6 power, it's just not enough. Cool. GG. Okay, up against Treyst. Got a jelly, got a gift. I generally like that. Boom is pretty bad versus Treyst. Like I don't want to be booming and sacking to destroy at best like a Haven, where they're also resupplying on it. It's so much negative value, and I like boom because it gives me a lot of positive value. So I'll be getting rid of boom. I'll be getting rid of small step. I don't want to keep this early. And then inside the Chrysalis are Overseer, and I haven't really decided which I like more in these situations, but I'm going to try the Overseer here. And we'll be doing our classic jelly left, gift one of the 2 depending on their play to start the turn. Now they play the Vike to the right, and we can sack either the jelly or this. The 1-drop follow-up that they could have is Axiom Salvager. And so, or the common one. They could also be playing Foundry Mechanic, but either way, if there's something that's gonna like end up in a decision point, it's rare Axiom Salvager, which if they play it left would trade lanes. If we sack the Maw, but if we sack the Jellyfish and we go into the power of the Maw saying that, hey, we want to block lanes rather than try to advance lanes, then they may be able to play this dude over here anyway. So sack Maw, we either trade 1-1 or they play a Salvager and we trade 2-1. Or we sack Jellyfish and we either go 0-0 or they play a Salvager and we trade 1-0. So it shouldn't matter. And so it's just a question of, do I want to give them more lanes right now and do a 2-1? Or would I rather play more defensively, going for a long game and go 1-0? Now, because I am going to be drawing cards, like this does mean that I have more resources available to me, which like puts me in a better position in a long game. That being said, Treyst becomes very powerful once they're online and like can be a good long game hero. That being said, I'm gonna try to play long myself. Say that all the extra resources that I'm gonna be getting through things like Gift of Self and Moonlight Jellyfish Sack are gonna make me better positioned for a long game than your small dirtily things and extra sort of resupply a turn once they're online. So sack the Jellyfish, go defensive. They do play a Salvager, and it's 1-0 instead of 2-1. Now, while I talk about playing a long game with card draw and resources, I do want to make sure that I'm able to play things out and not get overran. So I'm going to put back the Baba Yaga here just because it costs 3. But there's an argument that those 2 plays are a little schizophrenic and not going for the same line as each other, which might be true. But while I can, I'm going to get down this Isba. It's great to have it out, and this will stall us a little bit and see if there's something that we can do to counter their Foundry armor, depending on where they put the bug. And unfortunately, we're not going to be able to stop this with any of the power that we have here. So instead, I'll just use this opportunity to play out a Chrysalis. And again, I could sack it to immediately block a lane, but that means I don't get this in reserve, and I'm not trying to stop lane advances that aggressively. I'll just use this to make power for the next turn as like a pseudo anchored unit type thing. Here, I don't think I want both Pamelas. You know, I love jellyfishes, especially now that I already have the Isba. This Lady of the Lake could potentially be great to make it a little tougher for them to turn on Treyst, depending on how they try to fill it. And we're behind on both lanes, so the Overseer is great. So I'll put back a Pamela. I'll open up with a Jellyfish. Going left means I fight over the grass and I can sack it for the Lindiwe. They play a Delivery, which, because they see this Tinkerbell, I'm going to just immediately play out my reserve to get this Chrysalis out. And now I should Maw and make the Jelly to start fighting over this right lane a little bit more, since he's currently winning on Mountain. But I accidentally forget to make the Maw, and I just sack the Jelly. So that's just 2 power gone, and currently I'm losing this lane as a result. Gotta make sure you're playing tight technically, because now I'm forced to use this Off You Go to get the same power of what I just had. Effectively, what I've done there is, you know, use this Off You Go for no reason. I still have I'm up a lot on resources, so hopefully this doesn't come back to bite me too much. But I am still down 2 lanes. They see an Avalanche, which definitely makes my Kraken feel bad. And this is an easy mana for the Boom. Again, I do not like it in this matchup. I don't mind this Off You Go going away, though. 4 mana is a lot to be spending. But I'll happily play out this Jellyfish. An Icebound Peak here. I still have a lot of mana, and I really don't know what best to do to counter them until they do more things. So I'm going to go ahead and play out this second Isba on my turn. So if they play a 1-drop, which they don't, so I can just make Maw, sack the Jelly, and then replay the Jelly. But then I don't get the card draw from the Jelly. So that feels worse than just playing this Pamela, which will block in advance. And we can advance on both lanes, and we can use the Jellyfish draw when we need it. So that's what I'll do. I don't have the mana to both Maw and Boom this turn something. But now that I've seen this Icebound Peak, I may actually be keeping this final Boom, because it'll be a good way to stop all the power that this has out. Okay, I put back Alchemist here. I want to keep this Boom for this peak, and the other 2-drops are all just really effective right now. As I often do, I'll open up with the Jellyfish, because this is actually a blue-green lane, in case this isn't what I end up sacking, which is unlikely. At least this is fighting over here. But there's an argument that this is better on the left lane, just because, well, it shouldn't change much. It's extremely likely this is getting sacked since this is a free Maw turn. This is going to be going away. It doesn't really matter. Now, here, they've used their Treyst ability, they put out Ada, and they put out a Walrus Scout. I do want to Boom this before he gets to 3 counters, and that kind of leaves me 2 options. I could stall and then Boom later. I can only stall 1 more turn, really, because, like, if he plays Walrus Scout, let's say that I do Ortis Overseer, and he Walrus Scouts, then I could Boom. I could also Tooth Fairy this, then Lady of the Lake, their thing to give it fleeting. Like, that feels like the thing that I most want to do, right? I want to get rid of this cheap 3-power blocking unit that also gets fleeting, and I want a Lady of the Lake, whatever they have to play, so that it doesn't go to their reserve. But if I do that, that Lady of the Lake will put a counter on the Icebound Peak, and then they'd start their turn being able to put something in reserve with Treyst and immediately setting off the Icebound Peak, meaning that, you know, if I Boom the dragon, whatever character they played still gets the boost from the Icebound Peak. So stalling feels awkward. I'm not going to stall. I'm just going to make Maw, and I'm going to Boom this peak. And they can do what they will. This also prevents some awkward play where we like Tooth Fairy and they aggressively avalanche the Jelly and the Tooth Fairy, and we don't get the card draw from sacking the Jelly. They play a unique Ada Lovelace. 3/3/2/3. When I leave the Expedition Zone, you may put a card in your hand from reserves. You can destroy target Baraba's Isba. You can also put cards in hand to reserve from, like, anywhere. I don't want them to follow up with another Scout, so if I Tooth Fairy, on the left and they don't have a follow-up, then I can actually jellyfish to advance with the 2 water. So this gets rid of their big water play, and if they play something, then we're just like, okay, fine. You use all those cards to fight our Tooth Fairy. If they don't play something, we get to play this jellyfish and double advance. And when I overflow here, I'll get rid of the Tooth Fairy. Nice that we had the 2 Islas, so this doesn't really hurt us. Avalanche is gone. We're no longer behind on lanes, so I'll get rid of this Overseer. They open with a Treyst effect. Sea Haven. I'll jelly left, as is my favorite opener. And I can just maw, install, and draw cards. Now with Keelan Elemental, they put in a Frankenstein, which could, find them another Frank, and our Tooth Fairy is going to work great here, saying, hey, no way, Jose. And yeah, they don't have any other options. They're forced to play the Haven out, which means we have plenty of plays to double advance here and take the game. Those are all the games. I really like Lindiwe. I think she's actually a very powerful hero, and I think we've been seeing more of her, and we will continue to see more in the future. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing. And yeah, until next time, I'm Elio.